Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Nico, the CMO, lead marketing at Syntetika, and I'll be hosting today's live stream AMA. A week ago, the Syntetika Foundation announced that Jorge is joining as our new CEO. Since then, you sent us a lot of questions, some curious, or skeptical, and we'll try to answer as many as we can today. We have two very, very special guests. We have Syntetika from Syntetika, the new CEO, Jorge Cuartero. This is going to be his first public conversation since he got the role. And of course, we have with us Barnali Biswal, the CEO of Hilbert Group. One small note on the format. We collected a lot of questions in advance, and we picked the ones that were the most urgent ones. We'll try to cover as many as we can, but of course, it wouldn't be humanly possible to do everyone. Yeah, I hope you enjoy the next 30, 40 minutes that the DMA is going to last. And yeah, let's begin with Bernali. For anyone who doesn't know you, can you tell us a little bit more about your background and your role at Hilbert?
Sure. First of all, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining today's AMA. It's a real pleasure to be with you, and even bigger one, I'd say, to share this session with Jorge, the new Chief Executive Officer of Syntetika. Jorge, on behalf of Hilbert Group, congratulations, first of all. This is a well-earned appointment, and we are delighted to see you step into the role. As for myself, for those that haven't met me before, I am the CEO of Hilbert Group. I come from a pretty long career in traditional finance, specifically in the credit markets. I spent about 14 years at Goldman Sachs between New York and London, and have been in crypto since 2021, which measured in dog years is quite some time. So, with that, before I say more about Jorge, I want to take a moment to recognize John Lelich. John led Syntetika over the past year, and anyone watching the platform knows the amount of groundwork that has been laid in that time, the product thinking, the institutional framing, the discipline around how Syntetika presents itself to the market. That work matters, and it is the foundation on which the next chapter is being built. John is now transitioning to other responsibility, and he's supporting an orderly handover. On behalf of all of us, specifically Hilbert, John, thank you. The platform is in good shape, and the transition has been handled with real professionalism. To the Syntetika Foundation, thank you as well for the stewardship that has shaped this transition. A leadership change is often when you learn how strong a foundation is, and what we are seeing here from the team is exactly that. Um, Going back to covering why Jorge fits this moment in the evolution of Syntetika, we have followed Jorge's work closely, and I want to spend a moment on why his profile is exactly what Syntetika needs at this stage of platform's life. He brings three important things that are difficult to find in one person. First is real investment management and capital markets depth. He understands how institutions, funds, etc., actually make decisions, the governance, the risk frameworks, the pace at which they move, and the questions that they will ask before committing capital. This is quite not as widely available skill set, I would venture in the digital asset space. Secondly, hands-on commercial leadership in crypto. He has built and led commercial teams in this space, and that matters because the gap between shipping a product and selling it into a regulated institutional client base is exactly the gap Synthetika now has to close. And finally, this is the part I think is most underappreciated. He has actually run money on chain. Jorge founded a crypto native hedge fund, and he currently serves as the chief investment officer at Tulipa Capital, one of the very respected DeFi curators in the market. He's not theorizing about what works in DeFi. He has lived it, is living it. So that combination, capital markets, commercial grit, and on-chain investing experience, this combination is precisely the type of leadership Synthetika needs as it moves from build to launch and into institutional distribution. I wanted to say a word about Hilbert's role because I want this to be crystal clear to every person on this call. Synthetika is an independent project and an independent entity. It is, of course, governed by the Syntetika Foundation. The foundation controls Synthetika. What Hilbert has done and what we are very proud to continue doing is support Synthetika as a platform. We have supported the build. We will continue to support the launch, the institutional rollout, and the work that comes after. This is the crux of it, and I want to be completely unambiguous about that distinction. So when I say we are excited, I mean it. Hilbert is extremely excited about the prospects for Synthetika, and we are committed to continuing to support the platform, the foundation, and Jorge and his team, however way we can be useful. Alongside Jorge's appointment, Synthetika also has, of course, welcomed Tulipa Capital as a strategic partner. That's a significant development. Tulipa brings very deep on chain curation and structuring expertise, and the integration of Tulipa's collateral pledge capability, you know, as when combined with Hilbert Capital's investment strategies, um, it creates kind of the sort of capital efficiency feature that institutional allocators would look for, and we look forward to working closely with Tulipa and with other collaborators around this project. I'd also like to, of course, thank the Synthetika Foundation on behalf of Hilbert for the stewardship they have put into the platform. Every member of Synthetika team, and it's been so far a pleasure working with all of them. Jorge, again, congratulations. Work ahead is obviously real, and we're confident that you're the right person to lead it. I'm going to keep my remarks here so we can get to as many of your questions as possible. Um, Jorge, as well as myself, will be here for the full session. And I'd be happy to answer any questions if there are any towards the end of the session if necessary. With that, Jorge, I'm going to send it to you.
Well, I don't think there's a better introduction for myself than what you just said. You really almost make me have a red face. Um, but yeah, just to add a little bit more to what Barnali has said. Yeah, I've been in crypto since 2018, more or less, with a serious involvement in it since 2019, with a pretty heavy focus on DeFi and infrastructure. And yeah, previously that I was a communication engineer in the military, so that's where I want to believe that I got my leadership skill set from. And yeah, I've been leading a couple BD teams these past years in a couple infrastructure companies, and I was head of business development at Gearbox. As Barnali said, I founded Hilbert Group, which was a Swiss-based delta neutral crypto fund that later in 2025 got acquired by Tulipa Capital, where I now serve as CIO. Um, yeah, I don't really want to make my introduction much larger. I think Barnali did a pretty good job introducing myself, so let's just get right into the question. I say.
Yeah, I'm sure that with the following questions, everybody will be able to learn a little bit more about you, not only your professional background, but as well part of your personal. But one of the questions that received, it was about, well, now you wear kind of like two hats, right? You're the CEO of Syntetika, but you're also the CIO of Tulipa Capital. Um, some people will wonder about that, right? Like, how do you think about the two roles, and what does Tulip actually do for Syntetika? Can you explain that relationship?
Yeah, well, I don't think it's mystery how we cross paths with Syntetika. We are always actively looking for new opportunities in Tulipa, and one of the latest investments that we were considering was investing in the Basis Plus BTC fund from Hilbert, which is when we learned about Syntetika. And it was not exactly how it's going to end up being as a product, but it was pretty close, and it was almost instantly that I got the vision of what this could become. So we wanted to make a pretty large investment into this Hilbert fund, but we are also fully crypto natives, right? So taking funds off chain is not our bread and butter. It's not. It's something that we usually not do. We've done sometimes, but we rather keep the money on chain. So when we learn about Syntetika, I quickly saw that there were certain interests that we could have in Syntetika with Tulipa. So I think almost the same day that we learned about it, I told Barnali and Russell that we wanted to get involved, like really involved, and steer it in the right direction and help it shape it and build it and grow it. And thankfully, they believed in us, they believed in me. So here today.
You mentioned briefly about the BTC basis. I want to just like without getting too technical, what actually happens when someone participates, right? Where does the capital go? Just if you can walk us a little bit through the flow.
So right now, what the flow of funds will be with Syntetika is that we're going to leverage the 4626 and 7540 standards, the ERC 4626 and 7540, which is vault standards, both the atomic and asynchronous. So anybody that wants to participate in either Basis Plus or whatever other fund that we end up onboarding later, instead of going the traditional way, which is taking the funds off chain, doing KYC or KYB if you're an entity, more the TradFi way that crypto natives are not so used to, you just simply go to the UI, you deposit. There's a very carefully curated and built legal structure so that the funds can flow from the LP to the final fund while not forcing people to have a minimum investment ticket, not having to KYC or KYB. So the fund of flow goes to the 4626 or 7540 vault or the hybrid that we're going to use initially. It goes to an SPV, goes to another SPV, and then it goes to the final fund, which is where the yield is generated. And then we work closely with the fund administrator. We scrap the NAV strikes and we materialize it on chain. So it's not like we are guessing on the NAV or having big margins of error. We are actually working closely with the fund administrator, which in this case is going to be now consulting, to provide the most accurate performance.
I mean, yeah, this is very important. People nowadays pay a lot of attention to that. But another question that surfaced is this place. It's like so. This place has taught people to be skeptical of anything that calls itself safe, right? We've seen everything that has happened in the past months. So, what is built into Syntetika structure so participants do not have to just like take your word for they don't just take your word for it.
So there are two layers that provide like the transparency that you can provide. Obviously, at some point the funds go off chain because it is a TradFi fund, but it's a regulated entity. So we're not going to work with anybody. We're going to work with people that are at least as close as possible to the level that Hilbert is showing us that they have. So we're going to have proof of reserves, which is going to be connected directly to the exchanges where the strategy is being carried out. And we are going to be directly scrapping the NAV strike from NAV Consulting or whatever fund administrator the fund that we onboard uses. So these two measures is, in my opinion, maybe there are some other ways, but from what we have explored, these two measures are ideal for this because you can always make sure that the collateralization level is above 100%. Obviously, if the strategy that people are participating in is not delta neutral, there's some drawback risk. Even if it's delta neutral, when the volatility is low, there could be some minor drawdowns, but it should always be transparent and it should be reflected on the NAV and it should be reflected on the POR oracles. So this is what we are focusing on.
You mentioned a couple of times briefly the first strategy that will be going live with the platform. But a lot of people ask after that, after we launch the first strategies live, where does Syntetika go from there? What's going to be next?
So this is a bit still in the air, right? Because there are so many asset classes, so many different risk profiles, so many different managers. So what we're going to focus on initially is having at least one strategy for each of the biggest asset class in crypto, which is stablecoins, BTC and ETH. And then from that point in time, we are going to be open for whatever demand we have. There's people that are already doing some inbound to us asking for gold denominated or Solana denominated or Ripple denominated. So we're going to see what the demand is and what investors want. Maybe some people want more BTC funds, but with a bit higher risk profile, directional stuff. So whatever people want, we'll try to bring it to Syntetika.
And what do you think is going to be the biggest competitive advantage that those products will have compared to others?
Compared to who exactly?
To competitors, other similar products that are out there in the market?
Well, I don't think there are many competitors, to be honest. There's people tokenizing stuff and strategies, but it's not really the same. It's just instead of going through a broker or an exchange of stocks or strategies, they are doing it on chain, but you are not solving the biggest problems that these products usually have, which is accessibility. Right now, these kind of products are like gated behind KYCs or KYBs and very large ticket sizes. Nobody else is solving that. At least no one that I have found out about. So I think we have a pretty clear edge. I think that's also one of the main reasons why we were so bullish on Syntetika, because it's been a long time since we found out a startup that is actually solving a real problem that nobody else is tackling yet, which is the accessibility to these gated products. And I think it's a good fit right now because DeFi is in a tough position right now, right? Because until now, DeFi yields were sustained by inflation, by speculation. There were no real big sources of yield behind it, and the biggest asset issuers like Ethena, for example, their strategy is something that they do off chain. So it is clear that that's the path forward, and I don't think nobody's doing it as we're doing it in Syntetika.
I mean, you heard it here, folks. Definitely a lot of things for everyone to be excited for. The next, we received a lot of questions about if you can give some internal information, so to say, about what's upcoming for Syntetika. What can people expect, like in until the end of the year, in the next months,
So I
if
try
you can?
not to spill the beans too much. Everything on the technical level is ready. So potentially we could just launch tomorrow, but we wanted to do it right. We want to make sure that there is not going to be any drag after an abstract. We want to be able that we fulfill all deposits, all redemptions, every settlement timely, and not create drag for all the LPs on the vaults. So this is something that is not closed yet. So I'd say in the next few weeks we are going to hit mainnet. Weeks, not months, weeks. And then after that is hopefully we get momentum and we start listing as many new strategies and new managers, and we can grow quickly and make a snowball effect out of this and really take Syntetika where it deserves to be, which is up there with the Billy projects.
So in the next few weeks. Okay, okay, that's
Yeah.
exciting. Always crossing fingers. Yeah, you never know. Next question is about has Syntetika already onboarded its first institutional clients? When can we hear more about it? Is it coming anytime soon? That's another question we got.
So this is one of the biggest. Um, so this is one of the biggest verticals that we're trying to tackle, right? Because until now, institutions were very risk averse when it comes to tokenized funds specifically, because they were not done right. And s- s- there's so many different kind of investor profiles. There's people that do care about investor rights. There's people that do not care about investor rights. There's people that prioritize composability instead of investor rights. There's people that just simply do not want to live on chain. So it's difficult to please everybody. We definitely are putting great effort on making it as soft and light for everybody, also as modular as possible, so that everybody can deploy in their preferred manner. But yeah, ultimately, it's just a matter of adapting with time. I don't expect everybody to be pleased with the first version or the first fund that we launch. But of course, we are always going to be on the lookout for feedback and improvements, and hopefully we can serve all kind of investors profiles.
I mean, that's a great answer. Bernal, I have one question for you. From your position, you've watched this market institutionalize for years now, right? So from where you sit, what has changed the most, and how like institutions look at digital assets?
Well, the broadest question for me, but I'll take a cut at it. I think this is a question I care about because, I mean, both from the background that personally I have, and if you look at how Hilbert has positioned itself within the industry, this, it's basically been on this journey from the sort of addressing the institutional investors' need for several years now. And what I can tell you is that the change in tone among our counterparts, that's been striking. So if I kind of step back and think about the arc, three kind of like major shifts that would stand out. Um, I mean, the obvious one is skepticism to now getting operational questions. So it's not, the conversation 5 or 6 years ago, let's say, used to be whether the asset class belonged in a portfolio at all. That conversation is obviously over. Today the questions that we hear from institutional and frankly some of the largest allocators, be they pension funds, sovereign wealth, multifamily offices, or very large wealth platforms, those questions have become much more operational in nature. Things around custody, segregation of assets, audit, reporting, licensing, etc. The framing basically has moved from should we to how do we do this safely and at scale. So that's one obvious distinction. The second one that I think was ushered in was due to the ETFs, specifically the BlackRock one, which gave access to scale and easy access to beta. And it wasn't easy access in for opportunistic capital, but much more real, longer term, or rather broad mandated institutional capital. And then there is productization. That's another thing that I notice much more recently, which is that the allocators are not just adding, like directional beta, they are incrementally underwriting tokenized yield strategies, on-chain treasury products, even structured credit. So the conversation, if I had to like sort of, I didn't mention another important thing, which is the tokenization layer as well, because the that conversation or the niche that was real world asset tokenization, even though the volume or has more than doubled on chain over the past year, what is interesting is that it's institutional story is not just about collateral mobility. It's what Jorge mentioned, the emergence of a properly sort of governed and foundation led platforms that are designed for regulated investors. That clearly seems to be a need for it, and that's sort of the precisely the context in which Syntetika has been built. So I think the institutional lens has moved from conviction to much more plumbing, and then to product. So that evolution seems very much in line with other emerging asset classes that I have seen over my career elsewhere in traditional finances.
I mean, we've been saying it for a while. The world is coming on chain. I think already now there's a validation, there's a proof of it, and uh, it's where Syntetika is heading also. The next question it's for Jorge. Looking 3 years ahead, what KPI will best define Syntetica's success? Would it be TVL or number of institutional clients, revenue, or something else? We can't hear you.
Apologies, I was muted.
Yes.
So, how I like to call Syntetika colloquially is the hub for regulated strategies and managers. That's how I usually try to explain it as briefly as possible. So, I think the biggest KPI is this becoming a material thing. This becoming Syntetika becoming the go-to platform for everybody that wants to bring, um, a new strategy on chain. Someone who wants to get access to crypto capital, um, anything that crypto provides, the composability, everything. And to be more specific with actual KPIs, I mean, this is a distribution platform at the end of the day. So we are providing the distribution, we are providing the infrastructure so that these managers can deploy their strategies on chain with as least hassle as possible, so that it doesn't become an overhead for them to get access to crypto capital and to enable composability on their strategies. So yeah, I'd say TBL, users, revenue, but at the end, everything is very tied together. The more TBL, that means there's more users, that means there's more revenue. So I think it's pretty straightforward. There's no need to do a lot of mimbling around to see how do we make this work. This has a pretty clear use case, and I think and I'm pretty convinced that finding PMF for Syntetika is going to be quite easy. It's just a matter of keep working our ass off, doing a lot of BD work, trying to stick with the jurisdictions that it's fun work with, which is the biggest headache. And yeah, just keep doing what we're doing right now.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think that's a great attitude. And again, in 3 years, uh, Syntetika is going to be around. And I mean, with everything that you just defined, I think we're heading in the right direction. And that was the last question for today. Thank you both. Thank you, Jorge. Thank you, Barnali. And thank you, everyone who sent questions and came today to the live stream. I see that we have a pretty good audience on X, which is great to see. Uh, just wanted to say as well that that was the first live stream of this kind of we're going to do, but there's going to be more coming. So please stay tuned. Follow us on our social media or join our Discord. We're always there. You can always ping us, find a team member there. We're open. You can reach out to us at any time. And yeah, thank you very much again. If you have any final words before we wrap it up.
No, let's go do it.
Yeah, just thank everybody that has been on this ship even way before that I hopped in. You guys really made this a much easier process than bootstrapping everything from the ground. So thank you and everybody that worked before us in Syntetika. You really made this very easy and smooth onboarding.
Exciting times ahead, definitely. Thank you very much, guys,
Super.
again. And see you next time.
Thank you.